From 1961 to 1965, the St. Charles High School varsity football team turned in one of the most dominating eras in state football history.
When you were a kid, you always just said, well, I want to be a guard, or I'm going to be an end, or you just, it come natural. It's like, well, you go to class, you go to school, you go play football. It just always has been there.
But it was fun, it was all a good time. But I really think, and there were a lot of farm boys. I live in the city, in town, right in town, but.
St. Charles get a lot of farm kids, and, farm kids are just used to doing stuff. During the summer, I'd bale hay for the neighbors, I was in good shape, and it wasn't, back then there wasn't a big weight room or anything. We just worked.
Schrotenboer said they liked farm boys. Them were the toughest boys that they ever could have on a team, so.
And everyone in St. Charles was very fond of the football team, and everyone wanted to play football.
Always wanted to play football. That was my number one, but we lived on a farm, and we had a lot of work, and had about 40 cows in the morning, 40 cows at night. It was kind of hard about practice, but we did it,
Over 5 seasons, the Bulldogs racked up an impressive 43-1 record, including a 31-game unbeaten streak. The 43 wins are the most in Saginaw County history during a 5-year span prior to the addition of the state playoffs in 1975.
In 1960, and we went undefeated that year. In 1961, our team went undefeated. 1962, I was a junior. We went undefeated that year. In 1963, my senior year, we went undefeated and were selected as state champions in 1963. So I was fortunate enough to play 4 years at St. Charles without losing a game, and it's something I'll never forget.
During their stellar 5-year run, St. Charles recorded 16 shutouts and defeated their opponents by the average score of 30-6. Along the way, they recorded 2 of the highest scoring games in county history, a 78-0 whitewashing of Carleton in 1963 and a 61-0 shutout over Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart in 1964.
Losing wasn't, you just weren't used to that. You just didn't lose, You're used to St. Charles won. That was a established fact. If you lost, it was a bad deal,
We never tried to run up a score. We played everybody, but everybody wanted to score. It wasn't a deliberate, like 78-0, you would think. You can't tell a kid to intercept the ball and not run back for a touch. You can't do that. You just stop us, I guess.
Head coaches Glenn Dutch Schrotenboer, 1961-63, and Ron Cocan, 1964-65, guided the Bulldogs through the rain. The unbeaten streak began with a 32-0 win over Buena Vista in the final game of the 1960 season. The streak spanned parts of 5 seasons until Conference Power Michigan Lutheran Seminary halted the Bulldogs 10-6 in the 4th game of 1964. The streak also included a 13-13 tie against Shepherd in 1962.
We had a young coach, his name was Glenn Dutch Schrotenboer. Dutch's team lost the first game. They had 4 or 5 practices and they only ran 4 different plays. And then Dutch never lost another game in St. Charles in his 5 years there.
I don't know if the coach put the fear of God into us or what, but when they told us to get in there and put in that play, you ran that play. You had no choice. And if you screwed up, you knew you screwed up. But we had some strict rules when we played that we were out there to win. And that was the most important thing for us, is to win the game.
We got Ron Cocan, and Ron was All-American out of U of M. So he was no slouch. This is a good one. He would come out there, he'd borrow a helmet, and he'd play football with us. And we'd tackle him. and you had to hit him hard to bring him down. Man, he was tough. Oh, he was tough.
Amid the streak, the 1963 team captured the mythical Class C state championship after finishing number 1 in the Associated Press Class C poll. They outscored their opponents 335 to 59 en route to a third straight undefeated season. The Bulldogs also captured 5 consecutive league championships, first as a member of the Saginaw Gratiot Conference in 1961, then beginning in 1962 as a member of the newly formed Central Michigan League. Additionally, the Saginaw News named St. Charles the Class C and D All-Area Champions in 1961, 62, 63, and 64, and Class C and D runners-up in 1965.
We would scrimmage during the week. We'd scrimmage Arthur Hill, you know, and we'd beat him. I mean, we scrimmaged Douglas MacArthur.
Well, they come out of the gym, holy katoot, they're going lapping the whole field and players, and there's only 22 of us, you know, and I'm going, whoa here, you know. We got the ball first, so we're on the 25-yard line, and we run a play, and 75 yards, touchdown. So we come back to the line of scrimmage, you know. Well, Skillman sent in a fresh 11 guys. Oh, what do? We run the other way. 75-yard wind sprint to the end zone, you know.
I'll never forget Ron Thomas. Ron, he snuck right to and he sacked the quarterback. Their coach ran over and he grabbed Ron and he said, "Little man, where did you come from?" And then he took Ron over to this big guy and he says, "He's your man, get him." It was funny. I thought they were laughing, but
The 1961 squad finished the season 9-0, the Bulldogs' first unbeaten season since 1935, when they were known as the Miners. The Miners had a 20-game unbeaten streak that also included a tie, earning Class C and D all-area honors in 61 were team selections Russ Hahn and Joe Wojowicz. Second team honors went to Stan Lissick, and honorable mention selections included Dave Zazula, Walt Novak, and Dwayne Fisher. In 1962, St. Charles finished 8-0-1.
once you get on that winning train, everybody wants to ride it. That's what football is all about. I mean, it's a great sport. I love it.
Senior fullback Ed Wheatley was the Saginaw News All-Area scoring champion with 18 touchdowns and 9 pats for a total of 117 points. He was named First Team All-State by the Associated Press, United Press International, and the Detroit Free Press. Zuzula and Dwayne Fisher were All-State honorable mention selections.
That's how we really won. We were fast. I mean, and we were outsized. Oh, geez, just about every time you went up against somebody, they were bigger than you, but they were never faster.
Named to the Class C and D All-Area First Team were Whitley, Fisher, and John Wilson. Zuzula and Wojowicz were second-team selections, while Gary Taylor, Gary Mendick, and Phil Lissick were honorable mention honorees. The Dogs were a perfect 9-0 in the 1963 state championship season. Senior tackle Alan Hahn was named first-team All-State. Taylor and Lissick were All-State honorable mention selections. Taking home Class C and D All-Area first-team honors were Hahn, Taylor, and Lissick. Gordon Lake landed on the second team, while Gary Hunt, Mendick, and Don Robbins were selected to the honorable mention list. In 1964, St. Charles chalked up an 8-1 record. Mendick, a senior guard, received first-team All-State honors from the AP. Class C and D All-Area first-team selections included Mendick and Bill Adams. George Rue was a second-team selection. Honorable mention honorees include Bruce Lake, Craig White, Ron Thomas, Gary Hoffman, and Buck Flory.
Now, we had Bink Hoffman, and Bink was not your typical quarterback because he wasn't tall. But he was so football smart, and he could see things, the field. He's the kid who grew up in football.
The Bulldogs were a spotless 9-0 in 1965. Lake, a senior end, earned second-team All-State honors from the AP. Hoffman and Flory were All-State honorable mention picks. Taking home Class C and D All-Area First-Team honors were Lake and Tom Nelson. Bob Schroeder and Hoffman were on the second team, while Gary Scher, Flory, and Mike Vrabel picked up honorable mention laurels.